Hi guys, today we're going to try to disassemble and put new seals in this center joint out of a Hitachi EX100 excavator. It started weeping oil down into the lower track unit and spilling a bunch of oil actually. So what we're going to do is we're going to tear it down and renew it with a new seal kit. And I'll get started here. First of all, I'm going to take this end cap off. And in there you'll find a big clip ring and a washer and a gasket, and you'll disassemble the clip ring, and that's going to allow this center joint to be pulled out. And I'm going to use a threaded rod in this socket and a couple of nuts between the mounting flange and the securing flange from the top half to sort of push the unit apart. So let me get that set up and we'll be right back. Okay, got the end cap off. And there you can see the O-ring that seals the end cap, the big washer that holds the center section together, and of course the clip ring that keeps it stayed. And bear in mind when you put it back together, this washer is tapered on the inside. I don't know if you can see that very well. And that has to go up. So your clip ring will ride on the unbeveled side of the big washer. And of course that all just came out right like that. Alright, now we're going to hang it up and push it apart. Okay, so here what we have is the unit is supported by the center section. I've got a threaded rod run through here and a pretty substantial amount of threaded rod down in here. And all I'm doing is holding the top nut and gently applying pressure to the bottom nut by tightening it. And what happens is, you know, if you got the clip ring out, you can see that the unit slowly starts coming apart. I'm basically pulling it through all the seals, and there you see it bump through one, and I'll have to readjust and go down again, holding it up with the engine hoist so that I can you know, add a little gravity. The weight of the outer unit is helping me pull down as well. I think this is a safer way than beating on the unit. I've seen people do that. I don't think that's a good idea. And you know, it gently comes apart. So just keep working at this. As you can see, I'm getting more of the center section exposed now. It's getting ready to drop through another seal. Should happen right about now. There it goes. And then adjust your threaded rod again and keep going. And there's a point where it's going to just want to fall. So, you know, make sure you've got your catch pan underneath it, and the way I have it set up here, I don't think it'll fall all the way out. In other words, the outer unit will hit the catch pan and the block of wood I have under there prior to actually dropping totally off the center section. So I'll just keep moving it down. You can see the wear surfaces are coming exposed now. And just keep doing this until you get it to come all the way apart. It's a steady, slow process and boring. So let me get this done and we'll show you the insides. Okay, it's separated. You can see that the center section is hanging from the engine hoist, and it came out rather smoothly, no issues. And I'm going to see if I can show you down in here if you can see. You can see multiple blue seals in there. I think there's about 6 of them. And then there's a wear surface, a bearing surface right here, which needs to be replaced as well. Now in some of the older units this will actually have ball bearings in it. And then if you look up this way, up near the top, there is a bad seal. This one's hard as a rock. And then this is the dust seal. And it looks like it is having its trouble keeping everything out of there. As you can see, that top area is kind of rusted, and that's my fear here too, is this is the surface where that rides, and it doesn't look very good at all. So I'm probably gonna have to do something to work on that. Needless to say, the most important thing in hydraulics, in my book and my understanding, is cleanliness. So the first thing I'm gonna do is take all these seals out, and I'm gonna clean this thing really, really well. Okay, here we are. Just wanted to show you, I got all the seals out, and they were pretty grimy, pretty grubby. You can see they're nasty, very nasty. And you just take a scribe and reach down and be very careful not to get into the the lands where these seals sit, because if you mar those lands, you could ruin the seal when you put it back in. And then of course the same thing applies when you put them back in. You basically take the seal and get it started on one side, and you'll have to put a fold in it, something like this, to get it in there. And it's tough to do because your hands are down inside the unit trying to get these things in place. But you'll get it. Just you know, what I did is I soaked all my seals in hydraulic oil before I put them in. Here's the bottom seal. This is the seal that goes on the bottom cap, and of course I'll replace it too. Here's the top rubber seal that goes right about here. I don't know if you can see that. And you can see, if you look carefully, this is flattened off, and it's also got a groove worn in it, and it's really nasty. So to clean those grooves out really well. The top seal, which is a dust seal, is totally perished. You can see how much stuff is packed in the groove of this seal. There shouldn't be anything in there really to amount to anything. And you can see how dirty it is and rusty. It's very gritty all the way around. And it did cause some problems on the center unit that goes down in, and I'll show you that in just a minute as well. And lastly is I had, this is the bearing surface that the center section rides on. And I had a tough time getting it out. You would think you could just drive it out from underneath, but there's no lip to catch it on. The guys at Deere probably have some fancy tool that they use for this. I simply used a chisel and started cutting down through it until I could pry it away from the side just a little bit. Grabbed it with a pair of vice grips right here, flipped the whole unit over, took my punch and put it on the vice grips, and was able to drive the seal out, or the bearing out. So I've gotten all my new seals in except for the top seal and the bearing, which I have to put in right now. Alright, here's our center section, and I just had it covered it up to keep it clean while I was working on it. And if you recall, the top seal was pretty well shot. That's why this thing was leaking. It was coming up this way through the top. And I had to spend a lot of time on the surface, and it's still not exactly perfect, but it'll definitely be better than it was. This whole area was pretty well rusted, pretty grungy. You can still see some pitting in it, and I've been down to 400 grit sandpaper and then a polishing cloth, and I've still got some lines, and I'll probably spend some more time on it, but you can see where the groove has been run in this. I guess the big deal would be is if you could put it in a lathe and turn it down, that'd be great, but you know, your seal surfaces still have to fit, so I don't know how much material I could remove, but anything's going to be better than what it was. And of course, if I had to replace this, it'd be fairly expensive. So I'm going to get this good and cleaned up now, and be ready to put the two pieces back together. Okay, so we got the two sections back together now, and what we're going to have to do, basically I have a block of wood on the top and using a dead blow hammer, and I'm just rocking it down through these seals. You can see it hit one seal and slow down, and then bump through another. And I think you could use the same process I used to pull it apart with a threaded rod and pull it back together. But in this particular case, I kind of want to make sure I push it straight down in as opposed to sort of off to one side, because I know all these seals are brand new, the bearing's not worn, it's not going to stand a lot of sideways movement. So I'll just keep driving this back down in there. Okay, it took some wrestling, but it's back in there. I did end up at the very end needing to use a clamp from this end all the way to the big end to gently squeeze it down together, as the last couple of seals right up in this area, that dust seal and that last big O-ring seated, and then of course it's going into the bearing surface, and that's a lot of push. And my washer's back on, my clip ring's back on, everything is pretty well doused in oil, getting ready to put the bottom cap back on, and that will complete this. I'll cap all the orifices until I can get it back on the machine, and that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thanks.